a totally new spin, take a totally fresh take on these terms. Excuse me. So we're just going to go down the line and have everyone introduce themselves and talk about how their company fits into social.
So my name is Bill Common. I'm one of the principals of June Group. We're a video distribution and traffic driving company. And we've been in business for about 9 years, privately held company. And we distribute video branded content from global brands and media companies. And then we drive traffic to any URLs that a client would like, with or without video.
Hi guys, I'm Sam Juneman. I'm from Universal Music Group, so I'm kind of on the brand side. We are the largest music distribution company in the world. So we've got tons of labels, we've got tons of artists, so definitely social is a huge play in that.
Hey, I'm David Murdico, Creative Director and Managing Partner at Super Cool Creative. We started around 2005, and our whole mission was to make funny videos for businesses. So I come from a production background and a comedy writing background. And within a couple of years, we rolled in social media as a way of promoting videos, but then it became a standalone service. And we did the same thing with PR a couple of years after that. So now we do video, PR, and social media for brands and startups.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tom Tsai. I head up marketing for Quantifying. And what we do is actually really tied to what Teresa asked earlier this morning in one of her questions, which is, hey, we have all these metrics. Like, how does that tie to a KPI or a business outcome? So we hear a lot of marketers ask that very question today. And so we built a technology platform that helps marketers figure that out. How are your efforts in social and other marketing channels like TV and other offline actually tied to KPIs?
Awesome. Okay, so after our big eye roll, what should marketers make of viral today? What does virality mean in 2014?
I'll take a crack at that one. So to coin a phrase from our friend Rob Norman from Group M, viral marketing is like self-immolation. Anybody can do it once. So there are lots of viral hits that, millions and millions of hits and views. Our approach to this is that if brands want to get people to see branded content, the best way to do that is to pay for it. If you look at most of the large successful campaigns, Unilever's Axe Cleans Your Balls, Kobe Bryant jumping over the Aston Martin for Nike, excuse me, and even the Old Spice campaigns. If you look behind the scenes in those campaigns that were, quote, viral, millions and millions of views, there's a very solid paid media strategy behind that. So we approach it a little bit more realistically and with reliability. We're able to target consumers to opt in to see these. And then any part of these campaigns that we do has a very strong social media component. So it allows consumers to share or to go to Facebook or to go to a client's page, tweet, post on Vine, all those great things. So that's how we approach it.
If I could add to that, I think there's a paid component that then can lead to an organic or a free component too, if you do it right. And I think that's what you're saying about the social media part of it. I usually use the analogy of, if you think of like a stream leading into a river, leading into an ocean is where you're making tons of money and millions of viral views and all that kind of cool activity. But you're still at the stream if you don't pay something to get it at least out to the river. And then once it's in the river, it can take on a life of its own, and that also depends on how good the content itself is, which the last panel was talking about. So if the content's killer, then it's going to start to take on a life of its own. Then you can propel it through PR and social media and those kind of things. But I totally agree that there's a paid component at work at the beginning, for sure.
Well, I guess for the music industry, like, viral is so much different than just going viral on YouTube. I mean, we also have viral track lists on Spotify and viral track lists on SoundCloud, and now we have the Twitter live track stream where, at any time somebody could be tweeting about this one song that sucks, but for some reason everyone really likes it and it's going viral on this list. So For us, going viral isn't necessarily always about if the content's right, it's just about the buzz. So for us, it's really about word of mouth.
And to tie it back to the influencer part of this panel, if you guys have music acts that already have a huge following. Mm-hmm. So they just fart and everybody goes crazy.
Yeah, we're not going to.
This panel's so dirty
today.
Sorry, you guys are off. Well, let's just go to influencers. What should, when we say influencer today, what should a marketer think, and how should they approach that topic?
I would say that for brands that are doing branded content, they're trying to reach a targeted audience. They're trying to reach their audience. The YouTube approach of a shotgun approach, is one way to do that. The other way is to take that content, whether it's a 2-minute video from Kraft, how to make spaghetti bolognese out of Kraft products. That may not be interesting to me or you, but to the right target audience, the influencer audience, that's a very powerful video. So it's taking the branded content that the brand is creating that's true to their DNA, finding that right target audience and getting them to view that video and then share it or interact with whatever KPI they're trying to drive to. I think that's one of the keys.
Yeah, and Gavin, I think your question had the word definition, like how do we define an influencer? I think that's the key, right? Because in the debates that we've seen over the last, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it's been like, how do you define an influencer? We've seen kind of like the debates between cred and clout and, the number of followers and the topics that they tend to tweet on. I think what we've seen at Quantifying, and just for me in the industry, is just there's no one size fits all in terms of what's an influencer for your brand and your product, right? So I think at the end of the day, if you have a way to define influencers that really ties to whether you can sell music, whether you can sell your product, whether you can get people to subscribe to your service, reaching those people who can get other people to buy your stuff is really the key. Outside of that, if you're looking at metrics that are around share voice, followers, all that stuff, I think you'll just be chasing, potentially chasing fool's gold. Like sometimes you'll hit it, sometimes you'll miss it. It's a very strange game.
If I could take a crack at my own question, I would suggest that trust has a lot to do with it, which has been a big theme this week. Lacking between the platforms and the marketers and young users in particular, millennials. What do you guys think about that and the idea of trust?
I think one of the ways we look at trust is allowing consumers. We have a philosophy at Dream Group, at least, that we never interrupt consumers. We empower them. We take the content, we distribute it in the channels that are most relevant to them, and we give them the opportunity to opt in to engage with that content. And when you find a consumer and you target a consumer, whether it's a millennial or whether it's an older demo, if you allow them, to interact with that content on their own terms, it drives a stronger brand affinity, and it certainly will drive a stronger brand interaction at the end of that experience.
Yeah, I think trust and authenticity is, we did a campaign a couple years ago for Capcom for Street Fighter Cross Tekken, which was one of the Street Fighter iterations. And part of the social was like a 5-month social media campaign. It had global contests involved and all these things. Plus it had a 10-episode video series. And we cast somewhat of an influencer. She was a girl, great, fantastic on-camera personality and video game writer. And so we cast her as the lead of like a video series where she would recap the campaign as it went and all the contests, and the whole idea was to pit Tekken against Street Fighter. And so there was an ongoing, like every 2 weeks we had a video. The very first video we posted, the YouTube fanboys went crazy and didn't want a girl as the face of the of Street Fighter Cross Tekken. And they literally, you guys all know YouTube, it can go nuts. And I guess they didn't see her as authentic. They thought we were just trying to put a pretty girl up there and try to trick them. And so they literally were writing things like B word, get back in the kitchen, and this sort of thing. So we had a big damage control thing. What do we do? Oh God, are we going to pull her down? Are we going to put someone else up there? And we just reformatted the whole thing and brought in a bunch of top video gamers and turned it into more of a Q&A, interview show, and she played the game with them in every episode. And within one episode, it completely turned around, and everybody loved her, and they thought she was hot. So it actually worked both ways.
David, this part that you just mentioned about this negative reaction, that's also, in my mind, part of going viral too. You know, there's the positive going viral. I think one of the important things, like, you know, actually on the going viral part, I think on the positive side, we probably all agree it's sort of hit or miss, right? Like you can do it once, but I think what's actually important for major brands, especially today, is the negative side, to be able to monitor
totally
that.
True.
And when you're seeing early indications of something going viral in a negative way, then to have some measure internally to see, well, if this is going viral and it's going really, really bad, will that affect my KPIs? Or is this something that'll blow over? So if you have a system in place, that'll really inform you, is this something that's going to be bad for PR and affect my sales? Or it's just going to be a little PR hit and we'll get over it? That's really important for brands internally to have.
Unfortunately, sometimes when that's out of the gate, you can't pull it back, and therein lies the rub. You know, if you've got a campaign that's running and it's negative, it's very hard sometimes to reel that back in. So, you know, a very strong strategy, and I think authenticity and I think trust is imperative in that plan.
Great. So let's talk a little bit more about the correlation and maybe causation between virality and influencers. Sam, can you tell us the Carly Rae Jepsen story? I mean, it's fascinating.
Yeah, we totally can. So you guys all know, Call Me Maybe, Carly Rae Jepsen. So that video came out early 2012. It didn't go viral for about 2 months until Justin Bieber tweeted about it. That was really the skyrocket into that.
Of course.
Yeah, of course, Justin Bieber. But so that video went viral. It was really great. We signed her to Republic Records. An album was coming out about a year after that, planned on it. You know, I think, like, I don't think, and this goes back to the trust, like, I don't think people were really into it. The viewers were really into it in terms of being a huge fan and actually wanting to buy the album. So tapping into influencers could have been a really great initiative that we could have done. We could have really found, like, a core group of people who really actually weren't just casual listeners and wanted to buy the album or wanted to get the exclusive downloads or wanted to go see her at, you know, some Broadway event. But
So it was a superficial appreciation and more
Yeah.
of just a like a novelty.
right, and
thing.
like, and that's the thing is, like, you know, the deep listeners or the influencers, so to say, for us are really the people who aren't just the casual listeners. They're the people who will go buy the exclusive vinyl edition, or will go vote for you at the VMAs, or will go to your tour. So, I mean, impressions and the audience are a really great thing to have, and that's always going to happen with the celebrity. But we need the people to actually purchase the albums.
Did you see the Obama mashup?
I did see the Obama. I was really sad that he wasn't actually rapping.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, the album didn't do as well as it could have. I mean, I thought the target audience was these young people who go to see movies like 20 times, and
Right.
it's incredible to me.
Yeah, I
But-
mean, and another example of that is Psy. Like, he, you know, Gangnam Style was such a great
That didn't
thing.
do well?
No,
His album?
no, Gangnam Style did great,
Oh.
still doing great, but I don't know, like, most people don't know the single that he just came out with, Hangover, with Snoop Dogg.
Oh, okay, no,
And
no, I
that
don't.
was supposed to be a second viral hit, but, you know,
Right.
it happens.
We should play that later. Okay, so let's get into how this all changes the discussion around analytics and KPIs. What should marketers be prioritizing now? Maybe, Tom, you want to start with that?
Yeah, I think it's about having a system and a technology that will really link your both social metrics and digital and non-digital marketing activities to the KPIs. I think where we've been as an industry in the last few years is really setting the stage up for that. I think the way that we're actually using social data to inform our decisions is maybe only 5% of the potential, like just scratching the surface. What I mean by that is that today the vast majority of the strategies that we see are using social media data as an input to make some decision about the social media audience. And now that's great, but that's a limited audience. There's a way, and I think we'll see more over the next few years. My company, Quantifine, is working on this very problem, is using social media data as an input, but translating that so that it matches the demographics of the real world, so you can make a marketing decision that applies to both offline and online, so non-digital and digital. And then I think when that becomes more prevalent, that people have access to these technologies that can do that, social data and the people who manage social media within their companies actually have a much, much larger voice in the overall marketing strategy. It's not just social being used for social, it's social used for overall marketing.
If I could just add to that, I think we're seeing a shift in the industry, and Mindshare is media agency, Mindshare Worldwide, is kind of leading the charge in that around the term of adaptive marketing. So they're looking at how do they take all this data stream from social and different various incoming inputs, and how do they, mold and change a campaign adaptively on the fly. So they've set up these war rooms. It's called the Loop, and it's really about adaptive marketing and adaptive change, being able to make real-time changes to real-time market situations. And I think that is a current trend that's going to continue.
I think the next big frontier, it's already happening, but is going to be directly tying all social media, viral, influencer marketing directly to, as you were saying, selling stuff. I think that's where it's all going to eventually go. I think everybody's playing around in the sandbox and has been for years, and there's been hits and misses, but I think eventually the CEOs and CFOs are going to be looking more critically at the bottom line and saying, okay, we did all these things, we spent all this money, how much stuff did we sell as a result of it? And I'd even argue that sometimes they should actually be working backwards and figure out how much stuff they want to sell and then back into the tactics and then say, based on research and analytics, we need to do this amount of stuff to sell this amount of stuff, as opposed to just let's do this and try it and maybe we'll sell something.
Yeah, and just to make it more concrete, I could give you guys like a real example. So, with Quantified, we do a lot of work in the movies, so not much music yet, but 5 out of the big 6 movie studios are our clients, so we work on a lot of theatrical releases. So one of the things about social and analytics is being able to tell the meaningful metrics versus the ones that are just misleading or don't get you anywhere. So here's a concrete example. Over the last few years, we've taken a look at over 400 theatrical movie openings. And then with those movie openings, we've segmented them into the profitable movies and not profitable movies. So the ones that did well and the ones that didn't. And then we look at language characteristics of what consumers tweet and post on Facebook prior to that movie opening. And then one of the really interesting dynamics that we see is that between the ones that do well and the ones that don't do well, they a lot of times have the equal proportion of people who tweet positively about the trailer. So people who say, I love that trailer is so awesome. So that characteristic, people loving the trailer, actually does not distinguish between a movie doing well and a movie doing not well. So a lot of times when you're looking at social media inputs, yeah, you could reach an influencer, you may even get a trailer to go viral, but getting a trailer to go viral, getting people to tweet about it, doesn't necessarily always mean that people go buy movie tickets, right? It's the butts and seats. So it's really now more and more so getting analytics and platforms into the hands of marketers that'll tell them things like, hey, here are the language patterns that are indicative of people buying a movie ticket, buying a record, buying other products and services, versus the ones that are just like, yeah, nice to know about. I love that trailer, but it doesn't mean that they're going to go see the movie.
And then
Go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to say, and then would that give you the information to adjust in real time? Like, if you can see the indicators of the trailer before the movies actually come out, then maybe there are things you could change, maybe not to the movie, but to the other marketing.
Exactly.
To reach different.
Exactly. And the movie space is awesome for this type of stuff because all of their creative assets that they use in the trailer is basically from the movie. Yeah. So it's super, super easy to recut the trailers based on these early signals that they have.
Yeah, we're actually able to do similar stuff for planning tours. So if we're finding heavy concentration of influencers on the East Coast versus West Coast, we're able to plan tour stops, venues, actually figure out which artists would be great to bring on to that. A good example is Sam Smith. He's doing a tour this fall. Broods is an upcoming act that we have that's also on Capitol Records, but they have a huge crossover audience. So that was a great insight that we could grab from digital and actually bring it to the physical space.
I don't know who any of those artists are.
You should definitely check out Sam Smith. He's
I'm
great.
officially old. Okay. So let's talk about different platforms. How does this the conversation of virality and influencer change from Facebook to Snapchat to Vine to etc.?
Well, I think we all know with the Facebook making those changes that reach, just organic reach, is kind of shot now. What is it, like 16%? Is it? Is that the latest numbers?
18 or something, yeah.
18, something like that, yeah. So I think that comes back to the, I don't know what's going to happen with Facebook. We do a lot of our efforts on Twitter and YouTube, but yeah, I don't know.
What about the anonymous trend? I mean, that's got to be terrible for virality. And I mean, if everyone's going to be going on anonymously on Secret and Whisper, and I don't expect those platforms to take over. But I mean, that's got to be it's got to complicate things for marketers, right?
I think a lot of our artists are really into wanting to jump on the bandwagon with new platforms that maybe their other friends or other artists are on. But for us, we manage so many artists and so many different campaigns that we really have to focus on what we can track at this moment. So platforms like Snapchat are great and can do really great things for visibility with artists, but at the end of the day, we can't track it back to sales. So the little efforts that we have, we kind of have to concentrate them in places where we can figure out where the traffic's going.
I think I agree with that. We're seeing some really cool experimentation with those platforms, and I think those are all great and creative, but they're experiments. It reminds me of, rewind back, I would say like 7 or 8 years to the early days of online streaming video. Before ComScore and Nielsen, like other platforms, really measured those types of things, like those things existed, but no real money was flowing through that type of media. I feel it's going to be the same way with this type of stuff. Yeah, we'll see experimentation, we'll see some little budgets, it'll be cool and creative stuff. Not material and not real budgets unless there's a way to measure this stuff.
Or drive it back to the channels that you can measure it. Work the creative and the call to action on the experimental channels, but feeding it back through incentives or something, so it goes back into the channels that can be measured.
Yeah, we really have to get creative when our labels do experiment with things like Vine and Snapchat. With the traffic, maybe making a specific hashtag or trying to pixel a website or a video. But you really have to be creative. It's not a run-of-the-mill campaign that we usually try. It's definitely experimentation.
And how about June Group's finding? I know Reed questioned the authenticity of that, or the validity, but the finding that people are engaging much less inside social networks and on branded platforms. That's got to change the virality and influencer conversation.
Yeah, as I was explaining to Reed, we are seeing a huge shift away from Facebook and a lot of brands wanting to drive back to their own sites or landing pages. And that's really the relevant indicator there, where those numbers are coming from. There has been a dramatic shift, and it's continuing. That brands, rather than paying Facebook, would like consumers on their site, or they'd like them on a landing page where they can then engage with the brand, whether it's designing their own sneaker or designing their own car colors, whatever. They're driving back. There has been a shift in the industry.
And that shift, my observation is, I've seen that shift. My observation is that those brands or those artists, like those entities, they want to have first-party data, right? They want to own their data about their customers. And I think that's the thing that's driving it.
Yeah, we use JanRain, an appreciation engine, for a lot of our gamification and like internal CRM. So at the end of the day, we want that data and we want it in our newsletter.
How about failing? Is failing still okay? Is that still an option?
Failing in what sense?
Well, going on a newer platform and doing something that has your boss leaving long text messages on your phone.
Go for it.
Yeah, I think you have. I think there is a bit of a hesitancy on some brands to stick their neck out and try new things. But I think many of them are dipping their toe in the water and looking at new channels and looking at new ways to connect with consumers. And I think that's I think it's healthy for the industry. I think it's healthy for the brand. Getting back to the content part and all these new experimental ways for consumers in social networks, I think the point is to allow them, consumers to pick the channels they want to communicate in. And I understand the problem with brands measuring that and being able to target their dollars toward these new emerging social platforms. But I think the important thing is for the consumers are going to tell us where they're going to go. If they're moving away from Facebook and they're moving to Snapchat or Vine or Tumblr, we're going to know in a short amount of time that we're just going to be able to have to adapt to that and make those changes.
I think not only on the platform side, but on the creative side too. I think we were approached by L'Oreal a couple years ago to do a pitch for video. They wanted to do like a viral video. And they wanted to do something cutting edge, and they had just done something with Drop Your Pants or something like that, with underwear or something. It had done really well the year before, but they wanted to do something really crazy. So we pitched them some ideas. It was for a cellulite cream, and we had something like, it was all testimonials, all fake testimonials, and we had like one where like a woman was saying that she hired a monkey to spank her with a loofah and all this crazy stuff. And they were dying laughing in the pitch meeting. I mean, they just thought it was hilarious. But when it finally came down to it, we wound up not getting the job. And I think it was just a little too overboard. But I think that, A, it would have been really funny and probably gotten a lot of positive feedback. But then, as you were saying, it could have also gotten a lot of negative blowback, which then, I don't know, can you put the thing back in the box? Or can you adjust from there? I don't know. So anyway, I have a feeling either A, just the idea sucked and they hated it, or B, they didn't want to take the risk. But I'm all for risk. I think that, what we typically do is we'll pitch like a crazy idea, a medium idea, and then, and it seems like 5 out of 10 times, 50% of the time, you wind up going with whatever the creative brief, whatever the original idea was, some version of that. No matter how crazy you get or how crazy they say they want to be or how cutting edge, it usually winds up being some iteration of what they originally had in mind.
It's the bane of the existence of every creative, right?
Just one quick note about failure. I think in general, if brands are looking to get quote viral hits, 9.99 times out of 10, they're going to fail. If that is the goal, to have a viral hit, and that's what my point is that it's really about reaching the right audience and with scale.
Yeah, and with consistency too. Yes. And you were talking about the making the, I forget the example you used for the spaghetti and.
Oh yeah, the craft. Yeah, it's right. For them it was a smash hit because we reached the right target audience. The KPI was downloading the recipe, which helps cross-brand sell within craft, and I think it was 9.6% of the consumers that saw these craft recipe videos went on to download the recipe, which was it's a big hit for them.
That's awesome. Yeah, and to be consistent with the content that's either educational, informative, or entertaining. Because look at like Red Bull. I mean, they just keep cranking it out, anywhere from the Stratus, which was just insane, all the way just down to their regular events every month that it's just branded like crazy, but it's cool and entertaining and completely on brand, and they're consistent with it.
For artists too, everybody wants to Beyonce it. They all want to keep it secret and then do this huge reveal on this cool new platform, but not every artist can pull that off. A lot of artists need a lot of development before the album comes out. Certainly Taylor Swift can do that, but maybe not a smaller artist. So it really depends on who you're working with and if they have the power to do that.
Dave, I don't know if it's relevant at all, but tell us about the court case that you recently sat on that involved Carly Rae Jepsen.
Oh yeah, did you hear about this?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I was an expert witness on it was a girl in Alabama that was suing Carly Rae Jepsen for copyright infringement on one of her songs.
Was she good?
What's that?
Was she good?
Yeah, I thought her song was really good.
Okay.
But it was literally like a 2-second or maybe 5-second little blurb, like a do something.
Happens all the time.
Do you know of that case?
No, I don't think it was at Universal.
Yeah. Okay.
Wasn't it potentially precedent-setting for social
It
media?
was. It was apparently it was one of the first cases where social media was being used as a possible vehicle for copyright, like basically for the idea having been shared. And so our job was to go in and figure out, had social media channels been used between the writer of that song and the producer of that song and the artist, and did they have access to, did the writers of the Carly Rae Jepsen song have access to the original song, or the song, not the original, but the song that came before it. It's like that. But they wound up settling, and which I was really happy for, because it was like an 8-hour deposition, which was just crazy, because really it was one of the first ones of this type, so there were just so many questions, and I had never been deposed before, so I was just like, oh. So it took like 8 hours, and then they delivered me a thing that was like 2 inches thick, and I'm supposed to read it and make sure everything's correct in what I said. And then if I didn't think anything was correct in what I said, I was supposed to change it, but that could lead to further depositions. So it was like a nod and a wink, like you might not want to change anything. But then
Right.
they settled before I had to read it, so I was really, really happy.
Find yourself in contempt. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, you can ask another question.
Well, I think I know the answer, but do you want to see if anyone has any questions? Oh, we do. Oh, we do. Good.
Oh, Joe, yes. You still have to announce who you are, even though we all know you too well by now.
Okay, Joe Clichy from Energizer. So we've been starting to use, a lot of influencers, primarily on YouTube. Some have been hits so far, some, not as much. But so what do you guys go through when you start thinking of who you want to leverage as influencers? Like, sort of what's your process? What's sort of your checklist? And do you guys go sort of broad? Like, are you looking for a lot of influencers to figure out which ones work, or are you guys more selective and sort of take a longer process to pick who that is?
I'll take a crack at that one. Thanks for the question. I think we look to you. What are you trying to accomplish? What are your goals? What is the target audience you're trying to reach? And what are the KPIs? And from there, we figure out, what channels we want to distribute through. Is it all mobile? Is it desktop, mobile, and tablet? And then we look at, premium native publishers, and what are your KPIs? Is it you want a ton of video views? Do you want engagement? So it really is a process that's collaborative with you, and then we customize that campaign based upon your goals and objectives and KPIs. So it's kind of there is no one size fits all, I guess, is the answer. It really depends on what your goals are. I hope that helps.
Yeah, we're actually on the same page, I think. It just depends on who you're trying to reach and what kind of content you're working with. So I'll give you 2 examples. One, if you want a brand new budding artist to get a lot of viral buzz, we'll hire an agency like Boomopolis to run a Vine campaign. And we'll pick influencers on Vine that fit the same demographics or have the same kind of theme and content that we're actually trying to push out there. On the flip side, an example, Taylor Swift, her video came out last week. In the video, there's 100 of her top engaging fans, and we pull those fans with Sysomos. So those are the fans that are engaging with her social media the most. So we know that when that video comes out and it's this huge reveal, we're gonna have 100 people tweeting like crazy about it.
Wait, they were in the video?
Yeah, they were literally in the video.
Wow.
Yeah, they kept the secret for 2 months. It was pretty great.
That's amazing.
We get approached a lot with a question that they'll say, like, do you put together a custom list per each new campaign and what we're trying to achieve, or do you have a list or a group of influencers that you always work with? And it always seems to me like I get this mental picture, like I've got a barn out back where they just are all there, all these influencers sitting in a barn, just like Kobe and Khloe Kardashian just hanging out and waiting for me to tell them. But yeah, no, it's totally custom, I think, is the best approach. I think there are some agencies, not agencies, but like, I can't think of the names, but there are some like agents for influencers that they do have like a roster, and they usually specialize in a certain area. So that is something, but from an agency perspective, we usually go from scratch. Going from who your target is, almost a PR approach. What are your verticals, what's your target, and then what are your final outcome that you want, and then find the right people.
I would also add, in addition to everything you guys said, in addition to the characteristics of that person or those segments, what their digital footprint looks like, what their social footprints looks like, look also at the content of what they say on these channels. And then if you can systematically, using technology, map the topics that they talk about to the ones that correlate to your KPI, I assume sales of your product, then those would be good segments of influencers to go after. So yeah, there are the characteristics that we can measure easily, like their following and that kind of stuff. Then you get into natural language processing and automatically detecting different topics of conversation, mapping that to KPI. That's harder, but I think that also produce a more meaningful result.
And one more thing too is there's the idea of like one big Mac Daddy influencer that's got 5 million followers on Twitter versus a whole bunch of people that have 2,000 followers on Twitter but are rabid fans of what you're doing.
Justin Bieber?
Maybe, yeah, like Justin Bieber versus like 150 other people.
So,
we- one more thing to
yeah,
add to
please,
that.
please.
Okay, I would really encourage you to be selective about the influencers that you do pick, whether it's through an agency or a list of data, that whatever you're having them market is really natural. Like they might be the most influential people on your list because of whatever data algorithm you used, but if you look at their content and then you look at what you want them to market and it just really doesn't resonate with you, it's not gonna happen. So it's a mix between science and art.
You start dropping F-bombs on your
Right.
SpaghettiOs campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that Subway has all those fans that they have, and I consulted a little bit there, but what's amazing is that all of those people that you see on Subway are actually like fans of Subway, so it's similar, like when you're looking for influencers, I mean, yeah, they could BS you and stuff like that, but you do try to get out, like, do you like really like our product, and have you, hopefully used it in the past, because we found some influencers that a couple years ago, one, I think Wiley, she was talking about intuition, and she loves that razor, and we were like, wow, this is great. 2 years later, we were working with her on a more formal basis. So, authenticity, obviously, you guys have talked about that, is really important.
So, do we have any other questions? Okay.
Yay.
All right. This table is hopping.
In terms of distribution of the video, do you guys host it in YouTube and share that YouTube link, or do you do, because I feel like both Facebook and Twitter, they're pushing their native video product more and more, and does YouTube view count still matter? Or when you do unpublished posts, like if somebody wants to find that video later and you didn't post it on your site, on your fan page, how, do you guys think about, how do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I can take a stab at that. So we use Vivo. Vivo is a partner of ours. It was our first effort in monetizing our video content. There's been in recent 6 months, there's been a lot of new ways that we can advertise native video in Facebook. For us, it's really difficult because we don't want to premiere a new video on Facebook natively because we're not going to make money off of that. We're actually paying Facebook to premiere that, which is the opposite of what we want to do. So what we've experimented with is maybe putting up a shorter clip or something from a digital press kit that kind of gives you a glimpse of what's happening, and we link to the video, and everything we do, we monetize on Vivo or YouTube.
I think it also comes down to what your end goal is. If it's to sell stuff, then I would say put that video everywhere. But if the expectation is that we need 1 million views, then keep it in one spot and focus everything on that. But if your end game is to get traffic to the site, say, or something else that's like if the next step after the video is whatever that is, then put it everywhere.
I would challenge that a little bit, David, only because I don't think one spot is the way to go. I think looking at your target audience and doing a broader distribution with selected native sites is a very effective way to get massive reach if it's targeted. YouTube has changed their policy. They're not counting all paid views these days. And unless you buy TrueView, which is, in many people's opinion, not the greatest way to go. How are you going to scale this? And going to one site may not give you the scale. So again, the way we manage that is typically is to look at the target audience you're trying to reach, and then through hundreds of publisher relationships that we have, we select the appropriate sites that match up with that target audience, and then we distribute across a broad range. And that will give us scale, and that will give you, the results you're looking for.
I think I was agreeing with you, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I was saying
I thought you were saying put it in one place.
No. I was saying if the goal is to just get 1 million views, like on one video. I wasn't clear.
Oh, okay.
If the powers that be are saying we need 1 million views on a video, I was saying keep it to one.
Oh,
one
I'm
place.
sorry.
But no, I was saying I prefer to spread it. I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay.
You guys did promise to disagree on one topic beforehand, so.
Why not? It's the end of the
Okay.
day.
All
Yeah,
right.
come on. I was hoping for a fight. Can you take
We'll
that
mix it
back?
up here.
No, I disagree. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Okay, well, please give these guys a hand. Come on, standing ovation for the last panel. Yes, yes, yes. I told you I was going to make you do that, and it worked. Woo! Okay, so before we go to our last couple of roundtables, I'm going to do a couple of shout-outs, maybe.
Can we turn the music down for a second?
Right, yeah. And Tom, nice shoes, by the way. Tom, nice shoes. I like the shoes. Okay, so first I want to just thank the MediaPost squad. Rob, back there. Yes, Rob. Mr. Whitfield. John Ronga, who's somewhere around here. Ross, Ross didn't really help with this. Forget it. Ken. Anyway, we love Ross. But and let's see, who else from MediaPost? Kevin and Elaine, who manned the front desk and got all the activities going. They all deserve a hand. So thanks a lot. And then we have 2 roundtables. One is figuring out the right social media KPIs with Tom Ty of the White Shoes. And that is where is that?
Right here.
Oh, right there. Okay. And then the other one is how to nurture your brand's influencers, featuring the birthday boy, Alex Rivas, over here. So if you want to participate in a roundtable, please do so. And thanks, everybody.
Hey, before we go, just a quick get your attention for a second. How about a big hand for Kathy Taylor for the program and her fantastic team, Teresa and others. I know, yeah, but you mean, did you already do that?
Lisa and Marshall, who couldn't be here, and Ryan for being on the advisory board. So thanks, guys.
All right, we'll see you next time in April at the Ocean Reef Club in North Key Largo, Florida, for our social conference then. So be there. Look forward to it.